Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Market Talk with Musaffa, your weekly deep dive into halal investing where the faith meets the finance. We're on the mission to halalify the investment world, one stock at a time, inshallah. So today's topic is SpaceX and phenomenon of IPOs, right? One of the biggest IPO came to the market, so that is our main focus today. So we're discussing this one of the biggest events in the history of the IPOs. So as a background, SpaceX entered the public market yesterday at around 135 per share and closed in the first day trading at approximately $161, which is a jump from its entry point, right? Immediately becoming one of the most discussed stocks in the world. And the why? Because this is historically the highest market cap company. And I guess this is, if I'm not wrong, I didn't do that background check. It might be the first rocket, the company which focuses also one part of its revenue as a rockets, right? So I don't know any other company that deals with the rockets on the market. But history teaches that not every blockbuster IPO follows the same path, right? Some become generational wealth creators while the others struggle to live up to the hype. So today we'll discuss that what makes IPOs so powerful, what lessons investors can learn from the history's most famous public offerings, which we'll discuss, and how technical analysis actually evaluate newly listed stocks and they maybe and the past ones, and what Muslim investors should keep in mind when excitement meets opportunity. And always, when I start introduction, I always ask everyone who joins, and I will remind again, please leave in the comment in the comments and from any platform that you're joining in, where you joining from, which country, which city you're joining in. It shows us that we have huge community joining from rest of the world. Thank you so much. So and for those who might not know, who might not be familiar, an IPO, let me give a quick information about IPO. IPOs is when the private company sells, it used to be private, now public, sells its shares to the public first time and becomes publicly traded on the stock exchange. It allows everyday investors to buy ownership in the public. You would not go in exchanges, search for its ticker and buy it. It used to be not available on the market, right? Now, from June 12th, from yesterday, it become publicly available. This is called initial public offering. The company goes public and offers its allocated stocks to the market, right? So, and again, and now to the guest who's joining us. Again, Marjan Zaman, who's PhD holder, is founder of the Swing Trade Group. Brother Marjan is well known for his passion for technical analysis, market psychology, and studying how the price actions reflect investors' behaviors. Many of you remember him from the previous Market Talk, a session where we discussed Bitcoin and then market trends and technical analysis of that Bitcoin we did. And today we're excited to have him back to discuss SpaceX, what becomes the largest IPO in history, and then we also look at some other IPOs, how they performed from technical analysis perspective. Thank you so much, Brother Marjan, for joining. A few words from yourself.
Hi, assalamu alaikum, rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you everyone for joining in. I know this is a really interesting topic, and thank you, Renat, for having me with Musaffa. Always loved all of your work for helping the whole community learn about, Islamic investing and just trying to educate the whole community on, how to enter the market. And I'm just really happy to be here today.
Thank you so much. So a quick disclaimer, and then we'll jump into the questions. Okay, everyone is waiting. So. So disclaimers is Musaffa, US SEC registered investment advisor, but this registration does not imply endorsement from SEC. The session is informational purposes only. Do not consider it as an investment advice or recommendation to buy or sell any stocks, even including the SpaceX. All of this is for informational purposes. Discussion is not tailored to your individual financial situation. Please do your own research, consult with the qualified advisors. And then the views or opinions expressed during this webinar is our own and may not representative of the views or experience of others. All investments involve risk, including potential loss of principal. Past performance is not a guarantee of the future results. I already know this by heart by repeating many, many times, and this is part of my work as well, that I have to inform everyone. Now we jump to the main important, the questions part of this session, right? The most interesting part. And so please share with us in the comments where you're joining from. It's always very, very important. We have lots of people watching us. It shows for me that there are around 50 people joining from different platforms, which is growing by minute. Please show where you're coming from. That's very important. We'll put it on the, also if you have any comments, about today's topic, please put it on the in the chat or in the comment section of any platform you're joining from. We will put all of this. You'll get famous, right, by showing up on our market talks every week, inshallah. So the questions are, Brother Marjan, SpaceX opened at 135, right, and closed its first trading around 161. What does the first day performance tell us about the investor sentiment? Why the people reacted like this? Just in general, your thoughts.
So to start off, what I do is I always look at the NASDAQ. I always look at the ETFs. I look at the indices to evaluate the strength of technology at the current state. And I've been extremely bullish on NASDAQ for probably 2 years. I mean, at least like 10 years. But the fact that it opened so low, and if we actually go into the technical analysis soon, we'll see. But it opened low and it closed much higher, what that shows is that the buyers were in fact present. Sorry about that. The buyers were in fact present, and the bears or the sellers were pretty much non-existent, because the price, if you look at the actual candlestick on the first opening day, you can see that it barely went down at all. That means that the sellers had zero control over the price. It was all just demand.
Great. So, and the next question comes, many are calling this one of the most important IPOs in the market history. What makes SpaceX different from the companies that go public? Why we discussed all of this, and your thoughts?
Well, it's kind of interesting. You kind of need the market to actually buy your stock and to show that demand over time to really bring up the price from maybe few billion dollar valuation to trillion dollar valuation, right? And you have to show lots of revenue. You have to show growth. You have to show good leadership. You have to do all this work, right? But the fact that SpaceX IPO, even though they have like negative profit right now, the fact that the investors before the public offering are valuing this company so high, what that's showing is that creating this value in the $1 trillion level before you even get any public to trade, it's just mind-blowing. It's kind of just showing how bullish this company is. And the fact that it did not sell off on the first day is a huge indication about how strong this is. It's very important.
Great. Yes, that's what I think too. And then also it's impact to the entire market as well, I guess, big, because it mobilizes people. It's discussed everywhere. Everyone is looking at the stock market, not the bond market, not maybe other things. Everyone is like, if people were thinking about the gold or like Bitcoins or something else, they're like, and then their headlines is all about SpaceX, all about the stock market. It impacts in general as well. I guess it's a good thing, good phenomena right now to all the other stocks on the market, especially technology stocks, because it brings people's attention back to the stock market, right? We have different assets where people invest, of course, but stock market is one of them, and bringing their attention to entire world to SpaceX and then bringing to the stock market, I guess it has a big impact. This is my view, of course. So next question is, we're now turning towards like history of IPOs, right? So a few general questions. So when you look at the SpaceX, which historical IPOs come to your mind? Is that Amazon, Google, Facebook, Alibaba? I know that Saudi Aramco was also another largest one. Any other companies?
It's kind of crazy. I would say Google so far. The first day, the thing is that what I do with technical analysis is that I look at, higher time frame candles, monthly, weekly, and I try to educate this on my platform, Swing Trade Group, that, the higher time frame always supersedes everything else. But SpaceX only has a single day candle. And from what I've seen on the first day, it's been really nice. And I know a lot of IPOs, they kind of come in and they kind of stagger quite a bit, but we only have one day so far. And all I can say is that it looks like Google. And if you look at Google's IPO, very strong. And I can share my screen. I can go into it a little bit. I think if we're looking at the first, if we're looking at the IPOs,
Yeah.
but can I go ahead?
1 second. Yes. Let me do that. Let me put your screen on. Yes.
Yeah. So this is Google's IPO, everyone.
Beautiful. I love these charts.
Yeah, they're beautiful, and you can really learn a lot from it. So let's see on the monthly chart. Obviously, this is when it IPO. I mean, way back when over here. And one thing that you really need to learn about these companies is you have to spend time in the market, right? So one popular phrase is that time in the market is more important than timing the market, right? So let's say that you just got into the IPO over here. Yeah, it staggered here and there, but only if you held for 15, 20 years did you get this kind of growth from your initial buy, correct? So that's very important. And then let's zoom in. Now we're on the monthly time frame, right? And on the monthly time frame, you can see that this small little candle was the first entire month for Google. And then you can see how did it perform in the second month and the third month. And it is extremely strong, right? You see that it opened down here, very small wick to the downside, and then it closed up here, but it closed green, right? So what this is saying is that the market basically said that this was a kind of like a good value, right? But then you have to actually spend more time in the market to really evaluate what's happening. If you spent the first 3 months in, now you see this. This is what I like to call a fair value gap. So
just quickly, while you're showing, for people to understand, some people don't know what is a candle. So is a candle is how much of the volume of the purchase happened, as it more or like a buy or sell happened, that it shows it bigger or smaller? Is that based on that?
Yeah, so you can see here on the bottom, this tells volume, right? So the volume, you can see in the first few months, it was not that high, right? It can go up. One common philosophy to understand is that when the price is moving up and the volume is going up, that's more bullish. And you have to know these terms. Bullish means that it has a sentiment to go higher, and bearish means it has a sentiment to go lower. And what you see here on this first 3 months is that we're increasing in value, and then we're increasing in volume. So it's bullish. And then the candlestick itself is actually just showing, it doesn't have the volume in it right now. The volume is down here, but the candlestick itself is showing displacement. It's showing that the price is displacing higher, showing that the buyers are in control, that the buyers are pushing and the sellers are losing. The sellers are not able to control the price lower. The demand is superseding the supply. So this is really important. In the first 3 months, this fair value gap, you have a monthly fair value gap. That means that obviously the stock has split over time, but you can see that this is a fair value for Google. And the thing is that it never, ever retested this value again. Whoever did not buy in this fair value, now they are buying in a premium, right? follow more of these jargons, and I can get into it more on SpaceX. But basically, what's really important is, okay, so I showed you that on the monthly time scale, right? But what if we go into the daily time scale, right?
Wow.
This is what we want to show for Google, right? Look at this, and this is really important because you have to remember this while you compare to SpaceX, right? So this is the first candle. Is a doji, which is actually showing a little bit more indecision. It goes up, it goes down, but it did close green. The next day, the buyers, it gapped up, and the buyers definitely were in control. So these 2 days together indicate some strength. And then what happened is that the price went into a premium finally. It's showing, I don't know how many, maybe like 30% gain or something, and then a quick sell-off, because now you're in now you're getting some selling volume, right? There's a wick over here. A wick is showing that the price displaced to the upside, but then it was rejected lower. And then the price came back down to this doji, which then brought it back up. And this is the kind of scenario that we look at for buying, that you see that the selling volume was not so high, right? And then finally over here, you see the buyers come back, right? So this indicates a lot of strength to me. And what happened after that is, it just started a huge uptrend, right?
Yay. Okay. So we looked at this at the Google one, but to continue my questions, I guess I'm going to jump more technical analysis of the SpaceX, if you don't mind, brother Marjan. But before that, I want to really literally show how active our audience are. If you can see, I will right now put it on the screen. I'll remove for a second our technical analysis, and then I'll put how active our audience are. It's amazing. You can see how many people are joining from all different places. So one of the questions is if this SpaceX is Sharia compliant or not. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna keep it till the end, because we want people to stay till the end, because we're going to discuss very interesting, important points, right? And then we will disclose at the end if it's Sharia compliant or not. Okay? But we have people joining from across the world. So I don't know how I'm going to move this one, because it only shows the last questions. If I for example, we have from Columbia, Ohio, then joining from Thailand, right? From France, and we have people joining from Philly, Pennsylvania, that we have Malaysia, UK, lots of people. And then they keep asking questions about SpaceX, which we will discuss, inshallah. So please stick around, and we would be super happy to discuss this. Just wanted to bring this to everyone's attention, that we have lots of people joining from many places. So now let me put back our analysis chart, because it's very important for everyone. And then we're gonna now go and then discuss more SpaceX. If you don't mind, brother Marjan. Is that okay?
Yeah, for sure. Okay. So this is the chart for SpaceX's first day. Okay. Great. And I saw something in the chat. Someone was saying that it's it's useless because it's already priced in, etc. But this is obviously, it's important because the price hasn't really moved too much from the IPO of 150 for the public, because I know there was some premium already placed into it from the pre-market. But what's really important here is to see that the NASDAQ, right? So I was actually, if I was able to share with everyone beforehand, I would have actually been able to share that I was very bullish on SpaceX right from the opening price, right? Because that's what people are really afraid of, right? What do you want to buy or sell, right? Do you want to put on risk or not? And how much risk do you want to put on? So I was of the party of being extremely bullish on SpaceX because of the state of the NASDAQ. So this is actually something that took my trading to the next level, and it's something that I implore everyone to learn and join Swing Trade Group, follow along, see, because So I was very bullish on NASDAQ at 29,267. This level right here was a very crucial level for me Thursday into Friday morning. And what I saw in the Friday chart was that the NASDAQ created a double bottom, which is retesting from a strong, important psychological level of support. And that showed me that the market was bullish. And it actually showed me that in this current state of the market being in, kind of like in a huge expansion to the upside in terms of the NASDAQ and technology, it showed me that SpaceX would be a great buy. So my opinion was to buy it immediately at the open. And you can see that that buy would have led to 20% of profit in a single day, right? And it's up to you where you want it to sell off. Now, SpaceX, right, we only have this chart on the technicals, right? So there's a few fundamental things that I go on, right? The fundamental analysis is extremely important to me because it tells me the basis of my exponential Brownian motion, right? It's basically saying that the price of something is going to be in the moon someday, right? But right now, the price is at 150. So my technical analysis is going to tell me how fast is it going to get there and how is it going to get there. And we see that by looking at the chart. So you can see that once SpaceX opened up in the first minute candle, because every single candle here is important, and then you go into higher time frame candles, you can see that first minute candle displays to the upside completely and a very small wick. The second candle, it actually went down and retested that bottom and then closed higher. So just these first 2 minutes of trading really showed that we're bullish, right? And do you see how those first 2 minutes led to this third candle that was even with even a greater displacement to the upside? So my sentiment was buy immediately at open, and now I'm holding, right? Potentially, if you set your stop loss right over here, maybe they would have, stopped you out and then took the market up. That's why it's really important to have your conviction and to set a stop at a better level than just where you bought it at, right? So here you can see that because of this displacement, we have a fair value gap. It's something that I teach in my group as well, that we created this fair value gap over here with the fourth candle. So now we have this, that is telling you, okay, finally, I'm seeing some more safety in the market. And if we have this green fair value gap, you see that, okay, do I want to buy up here? Do I want to buy up here? Not necessarily. I know that there's fair value over here. Let me set my buy limit order in this fair value gap, potentially in the upper level or at the mid level, or maybe even at the bottom of it, right? These are fair value. And you can see that the buyers who came in over here, they had an opportunity to take the price from 156 to 168. So you're getting almost 10% of profit in a single day, right? And this, so it's your choice if you want to exit again. But then it retraced again and it tapped this middle fair value gap. Now that is a key indication for me, again, for a bullish sentiment. And this entry actually led us to an even higher price, right? 175. So now you see that maybe you had a little bit more risk here and it was a little bit more scary, but you're benefiting the most. But then these people who bought, they're actually being more smart and they're buying at a good fair value and with a lot less risk potentially. And then they got maybe a 20% increase in their, or 15% increase in the same day. So that's how we traded in with high volume in the start of the day. And you can see that the volume kept coming to push it higher. And then there was just a small sell-off, right? Usually later in the afternoon, you're getting a slight decrease in the price because you don't want to buy in a premium, right? And what I have here is the volume profile, which shows value area high and value area low. And when the price is in a value area high, it's not necessarily a good price to buy, but for the people who already bought, they're in profit. But then maybe the value area low is now a good time to buy. And you can see that as the market was closing off for the day, that the bulls, the buyers actually defended this low value price.
Okay, so I have a few follow-up questions that to make it more interesting. But before that, I wanted to heat up a little bit of conversation here with our audience. I wanted to ask if anyone in the who is joining and listening us, have you bought any stocks from Elon Musk? He also has a Tesla on the market, right? So if anyone wants to share, or even the SpaceX, if anyone bought or already. So we haven't come to the discussion of it, if it is halal or not halal, but everyone knows that Tesla has been halal. So if anyone can share by saying yes or no. So that would be very helpful. Okay. So, and while the our audience is answering, yes or no, I want to ask a few questions from you in relation to this, what we are doing at the analysis. So, is the is it first day first trading week is more important than the first trading day when evaluating new IPOs? I guess for that we need also need to look at the other IPOs because it's just only first day for the SpaceX. But in general, in comparison to the SpaceX with other IPOs, Brother Martin.
Yeah, like I mentioned before, that I like to look at the higher time frames, right? And when I do technical analysis, personally, historically, I always avoid IPOs because um, because of the lack of history, right? You only have what, 1 day or less, or 1 minute, right? And that brings a lot of risk involved, right? So you have to pay a lot of attention. So I guess in the recent years, because how much I've been learning about it, now I can, like I showed you, that I was very bullish on it from the beginning, right? So because it's a very important IPO, I think it was important to try to gain some exposure to it, etc. But always the higher time frame is more important. Like I showed you with Google, that once it showed some good success in the first month, it became safer. It closed in a doji, right? So it basically went up and down all month, and then the next month is when it really expanded to the upside. So as you develop as you develop the chart price action, it indicates to you more and more, I guess, conviction in buying or selling a certain equity. So yes, the monthly is more important than the weekly. The weekly is more important than the daily, and the daily is more important than the 5 minute and the 1 minute. But right now, because we're just looking, we only have 1 day. Suddenly, the 4 hour and the 2 hour and the 1 hour, those are very important. So we have to. So I look at everything.
Okay. That's great. Now, my next question is, what technical indicators do you pay attention first? You already showed about the candles, but is it volume? Is it support levels? Is it momentum? Is that relative strength or something else?
Yeah. So personally, with the data, some people are confused by the data. Some people like to just keep it like a naked chart with nothing on it, because the candlesticks tell you so much. But personally, I found that understanding all of the data and being able to act on them has allowed me to find many more opportunities than if I just looked at one thing, right? So it's called confluence, right? When your volume, when your RSI, when your support and resistance, supply and demand, when all of these things are coming together, you have more confluence to take a buy, right? So I personally, first, I like to look at the supply and demand, which is literally in the candlesticks. When you have like an engulfing candle, or if you have let me change this to show up on the right, so it's less.
Hey.
So here you can see that, let's say this is the 5 minute. You can see that when you have an engulfing candle to the downside, that creates supply. This is technically the first supply that we created at 175. Now we want to break that. This is actually a very weak supply over here. So I was actually watching this. because this is a very weak engulfing candle. It didn't really engulf the whole thing, and we obviously have low volume here. But once this supply is broken over here at 168, you see how the bulls came back in, right? They actually defended it. Now the supply turned into a small demand. This level over here, 175, is what engulfed to the downside and created supply. And depending on how the price moves, we can take a trade, right? So obviously, I already mentioned to you that you can enter in the fair value over here after the supply was made, and this was a great trade to go up here. But then when you see this supply happen, now you're thinking, okay, so this is a supply zone. So then the next candle, it actually came almost up to the supply. And you can see that the sellers were present now near this supply. So let's say that you didn't sell right away on this red candle. You just waited for a little retrace and you get out of your trade. And this is basically what I would see for the first day of SpaceX, is that it was extremely bullish, but then after it created its first supply zone, they started to sell off their shares. And then now we're testing all these other levels again.
Great. So next question is, many IPOs experience extreme volatility in the first few weeks. What typically causes that volatility? And if you can share it in comparison to, let's take 2-3 IPOs. Let's take this SpaceX in comparison to Facebook or the British the Google or a few other ones.
So I think I have a few different ones over here. I think we already talked about Google, and we showed how Google performed on a daily basis, right? That it kept going up until it formed a red candle, right? To go down, and then it used those previous IPO levels as a support and go up again, right? But let's see, like I said, the NASDAQ is extremely strong right now, right? We see the chips. We see SanDisk at almost 2,000. We see AMD at 500. NVIDIA is at 200. Micron is at like around 1,000, right? Everything's extremely strong. And when I look at the NASDAQ indices and I can see that it is very bullish, I'm bullish on technology stocks. And I think it's really important to see the company itself, right? This is, like I said, the fundamental, right? SpaceX is going to try to revolutionize the world, right? If you have a company that's going to change the world, then you have to pay attention to that, right? If you're going to do space exploration, think about it. If you can mine different minerals, if you can get minerals from the world, like they could control a lot in the future, right? So you have to really consider these things. But let's say, so these other companies are not necessarily on that same level. Let's look at, let's say, MongoDB. MongoDB it's a data analysis company, really good, strong IPO. So you can see that over here. How did it perform on its first day? It IPO'd around $33. It's a remember, data is obviously a very strong sector. So all the companies that we're going to be looking at are related to technology. And you can see that MongoDB actually had a huge red candle on the first day, and then it sold off. So that's actually showing some weakness. But what happened? It created some kind of strange W pattern over here, and it broke back up over this initial high volume level, and then it retested it very strongly. And what happened after that? So this took from November to May, right? That's a 6-month period. But then after that, it just exploded, right? Now it's in the 400s, right? So, what we like to say, obviously everyone has to do their own research and do their own due diligence, and, any risk you take is your own. So the idea is, you obviously don't want to put your entire life savings into it, but maybe it was a great idea to do it, right? Maybe you're going to be in a little bit of a drawdown, but eventually it went up tenfold, right? Now, SpaceX is that if it's valued in the trillions and it has the access to all these minerals or whatever in the future, it actually could be the most valuable company ever, right? If it can really change the entire earth, right? In a very in a way that we've never ever seen before, maybe to the likes of Google, right? And obviously we've seen from Google IPOs up, a couple hundred fold, but there's a lot of volatility, and that's what I like to go at. Like what I like to comment on is like you're asking about that. How do these previous IPOs show us what could happen with SpaceX? So MongoDB had that sell-off and then it came back later, right? But what about, let's say, Robinhood, right?
Mm-hmm.
Robinhood, is it going to change the world? I'm not sure. I mean, it changed the lives of a lot of people being able to trade with very little, fees, etc.
Yeah.
And you can see that. How did it perform? You have a red candle, but then you have a few green candles coming after high volume, right? And breaking that original IPO level, right? So it's pretty bullish. But when you see when the price goes up too fast, what happens? Everyone is taking their profit. It gets stuck, right? And now if you bought it in
it was like a sell-off by those owners when it was private company, I would say, right? Basically.
Well, it depends. There's all different rules that you have to learn about. When can different people of the company sell? Because Elon Musk, he can't sell his shares for a year, right?
Yeah, and there's 180 days rule in many cases. It's just general industry standard, I would say, I guess, if I'm not wrong. But every company has their own rules. But generally, yes, I agree.
Yeah, and so this is only 4 days, so I'm not sure what was the rule for Robinhood, but the thing is that also I think after the first week is when margin trading is available for some stocks, and maybe if it goes up too high, maybe a lot of short sellers wanted to just short this stock.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it came back down all the way to $10, and it went sideways for a long time and formed a cup and handle, and eventually it came back. It came back. But sometimes you're going to have to wait several years for this to happen. Yeah. So you have to understand, this is why I actually don't like to trade IPOs too much, is because it's so risky. You never know what crazy pattern is going to form. I think Webull was also very interesting. Like there was a slight sideways motion and then a crazy pump that dumped completely back down. It went up to like $70, $80 and came straight back down to $10, right? So you have to manage your risk as a trader or as an investor. What is your time horizon? 1 year, 5 years? Do you not care do you need that money, right? If you need that money, you're not investing it because you don't, it can go down before you need it again. But if you're trading, then you have to be able to manage your risk and have a stop loss and know where you want to exit or place your stop loss, etc. And I can help you with that. One thing that's really interesting is I wanted to talk more about, another IPO is Circle, right? So Circle is kind of related to Bitcoin, okay? And Circle, when Bitcoin, so I was very bullish on Bitcoin, around that 60K, 70K level, last year, et cetera. And Circle was very strong because it came out when Bitcoin was strong, right? So look at its IPO, went from 68 to 280, right? So it went with Bitcoin. And now Bitcoin, what's happening? Bitcoin's at half its all-time high, right? So what's happening to Circle? It's so weak, right? And so Circle came out at a good level, but what about Gemini? Gemini Space Station Group, this like the Winklevoss brothers, they IPO'd their company, which is Bitcoin related, when Bitcoin was already very weak. So what happened? Its stock, look, it just basically sold off completely. No one's interested in it, right? Potentially right now, if Bitcoin's 60,000 double bottom holds, this could be a really nice level, right? But I'm just trying to show you that Circle came out at a good time for Bitcoin and it went up, but Gemini came at a bad time for Bitcoin and it went down. But then now going back to SpaceX, with the NASDAQ being strong, it's coming out. So I want everyone to know that it's basically saying that, SpaceX is going to be strong because it's coming in a good market environment.
Yep. So really quickly, thank you so much for going to detail. We had lots of questions coming from about if SpaceX is halal. I want to take people there, and then we will do a little bit of closing discussions, Brother Marjan, if you don't mind, because it was such an interesting discussion, and people are so waiting so much if it's actually halal or not halal. Let me introduce them this information, and then we will go more discussions, inshallah. So there were a few people in the who is watching us. They were asking a question if it is halal or not halal. Let me show them on the screen. Second, I'll remove this. And so people were asking, is that halal or not? And then SpaceX is halal or haram? This is our people are asking. So let me see. There were so many questions about halal. And then one of the brothers who was advocating strongly that SpaceX is not halal. So now I will show more in detail, and then there's all this information is coming about the axis being part of the SpaceX and etc. So what to clarify on our side how Musaffa's team analyzed it and then put that information to our audience. 1 second, let me remove this. So I will share our Musaffa platform, and then we go to the SpaceX stock page and look at this. 1 second, I need to share mine. There we go. Can everyone see it? I believe everyone can see it. Brother Marjan, can you see it? Yeah. So we our team did again, this information is based on the prospectus and all the prospectus the any IPO company puts. They don't have quarterly or annual 10K or 8K the reports, which usually form the information for the stock analysis if they're halal or not halal, because there you get detailed information. But our team actively goes to IPOs and then get the information, analyze all the publicly available information put by the company. Again, we're not going and then searching some websites, random websites, if they're saying halal or not halal. But it's very important that because we're a financial company, we have a huge team of financial equity research analysts. Equity research analysts in Musaffa is the number of the equity research analysts is the one only that could claim as financial investment company like operates in US. If you take, I know as per the filings, if you take registered investment advisors, which is around 16,000 in US, almost all of them have minimum a few equity research analysts because they do the research. Some of them have hundreds, thousands of equity research analysts if you take the big ones of Charles Schwab and Fidelity and other ones. So without equity research analysts, this the analyzing is almost impossible. So that's why Musaffa stands out from other screening tools or companies or that are in this space, because we can do very detailed analysis. And all of these people who work on our team have a financial background. They know they studied for 4 or 5 years to understand every single like a word or term in any filings, right? So they took this publicly available information and we did analysis. For now, we marked it doubtful. The reason for marking it doubtful, we can go through the report again. So you can see, as usual, our reports are very detailed. So halal revenue, we were able to determine as 86.35%, which says that it's failing the mark of 95%. If it reaches only 95%, then IOFI says you can invest. But again, I want to inform everyone, as always, the question comes, why does 5% is still allowed? Right? So the point is, otherwise we would not be able to invest in the market. But again, all of these rulings always say, don't keep it. It does not mean that 5% you still keep it. You will purify from your from your profit. That means that's how you clean it. It's not allowed at all to invest in something that is not pure. So that way, by purification, you still remove it, but it needs to reach the more closer, or its activity has to be core activity has to be halal, right? And then we look in the detail calculations here. So doubtful, and then not allowed, which is 4.34. Then we go into detail here. Launch services as 6.73. This is from publicly available information. You can check it from. And just to inform, so our foundation plan is soon going to be made available. If you do a few questionnaires, inshallah, you can get the whole year free and then enjoy using it. So we want to make it available and accessible to our community. Launch and development, 5.89. Connectivity consumer is 43.7. 77. Connectivity enterprise and government, 14.45%. Advertising is 5.83. AI solution and infrastructure is 9.68. So, and then we have this connectivity with Starshield, which is government's defense contracts related, and usually they are marked as we don't know, because those contracts also may differ. Sometimes something might be developed which is not used for harming or any conflict or any war or any other zones, but used for the support, like all different areas that the defense minister helps, even internally, right? Not related to the war or other aspects. So, and then advertising, doubtful portion is by the information provided. Here, all the details, right? So, X specific audience, this is how much of the information is given. So they might do all of these alcohol and conventional financial services, speculative cryptocurrencies, anything that is calculated by the team in detail is 1.16. So you can see how much of detailed information is given. And then for the interest income, it's 4.34. So based on this, and then you can see for the interest-bearing securities and assets, it passes because there's a 30%. It passes with 1.38, which is really good. And the interest-bearing debt also, there's not too high. If you compare it to its market cap, it's 1.71, which is really good. So that's why, because of this huge doubtful revenue, we marked it as doubtful. Maybe next quarter we will receive more information and we can put it. But Musaffa at the moment marks SpaceX as doubtful. This is all the information what I can share about if the stock is halal or not halal for the SpaceX, because most of the people were asking, and then we are happy to share this information. Go please explore it. It's on Musaffa. You can get all this, and Musaffa has become a registered SEC, a registered investment advisor, which means you can invest in the managed portfolios that we launched. All very, very helpful for our community. So from here, I want to move brother Marjan. So I want to bring back, because I really love these charts. I want to keep it, but then I still want to ask. Some of them are related to the analysis, some are not. But I want to ask my last questions because they're very, very important. I know that we like 4 or 5 minutes over time, but because of this big event, I believe, and then this is the largest crowd that I've ever seen in all our market talks. Brother Marjan, soon maybe you're going to be very famous, and we want to be famous, right? It's very important. So now my last questions, and again, at towards the end, we will put the code which gives you a discount, right? Because we want to give a small gift for anyone who joined and then be with us on these sessions. So last questions. This is related to Muslim investors, and then give me your own thoughts, Brother Marjan. Many Muslim investors are excited about the innovative companies, these innovational companies like SpaceX. Beyond the excitement, what should the investors evaluate before adding a company to their portfolio? A few of your thoughts.
So I think that looking at the index is very important. The relative strength of the entire market is very important. And like I mentioned, with Bitcoin and Circle and Gemini, right? With NASDAQ and Google and Meta and Facebook, you have to look at the entire market context, because generally there's like a green light or red light for the whole market, right? And right now we're in a green light. So that's the first step, is to understand, okay, how is the NASDAQ doing? And it can be very daunting because a lot of people don't understand it at all, right? The candlesticks and the volume and the patterns and the market structure. So you can't just learn that in one day. It takes time and experience. So it is really important to have like a mentor or a teacher, and I provide that with Swing Trade Group. And everyone can just follow me on LinkedIn or just connect with me, so I can try to help you out with your current situation. I offer a lot of things without charging. I know a lot of people are trying to get a job, they don't have a job, but they still want to learn and grow. I don't want to charge people anything for that. So it's really important to have a teacher. And personally, what I can say is that I really care about all of us. I really care about the Muslims, my friends, my family. And that's why I'm doing this. It's because I think that, God Almighty, He has taught me something, and I want to share that. And I can't think about, if the market was let's think about another scenario, right? What if the market was in a terrible situation right now? I would be saying that the NASDAQ is very bearish and let's just wait, let's just wait to buy SpaceX. But that's not what's happening right now. Like, I very much value the words that I allow to come out of my mouth, and the fact that if the market is strong at the moment, we are right underneath some kind of resistance, but we are acting very bullishly in this retracement. So I am pretty bullish overall in the market. So that's the first thing, market context. And then secondly, it's just risk management, right? Like I said, if you are looking for a long-term investment, which is what it took to really see not just 10, 20% gains, but to see 30,000% gains from these big tech companies, you have to hold for a long time. You can't just buy and sell when you're in a big loss, right? If this is going to be one of those major companies like Google, like Nvidia, like Facebook, then it might take time for your investment to manifest. So you have to be patient and manage your risk and be very aware of, your time horizon.
Yep. So how important is diversification when investors encounter a company that everyone is talking about? Like, it's a huge hype, right? And then do you still want to think about diversification or not?
So, Alhamdulillah, the way that I look at it is, risk exposure and, what is happening in the market, right? Like right now, I know that gold is in a correction, right? I know that Bitcoin was in a correction until, recently, until maybe this double bottom is going to pan out. But I wouldn't try to hold much of those other things, right? What I do know is that NASDAQ is extremely bullish, and it's been building up for years and years. And this is the kind of the cup and handle breakout and retest of the NASDAQ. So I'm extremely bullish on chips, AMD. If you remember, Musaffa and my wife Nusrat, we were trying to help people to, time the market earlier with AMD under $100, right? And now it's at $500. So, that was a really good discount. Now, what is the state of the market? Obviously, nothing is in a discount, but is it going higher? That's how you get a buy, is that if I do think it's still going to go higher, I have to buy. Like, you're not going to get AMD at $100, right? You're not going to get it at $200. Maybe you can get it at 350 or 260. So maybe you'll be a little hesitant, but you're not going to get those big discounts. But you have to understand, okay, is it going to keep going up, right? Like, obviously we weren't part of the pre-IPO. We weren't the investors, but now we're finally getting exposure to SpaceX. So do we want to buy at 150? Do we want to buy at 160, 170? And if you look at the chart, you can see that I think the chart just disappeared, but you can see that we did create in the first few minutes of, the high volume trading. Let's say that we go to the 2-minute chart. You can see that we engulfed this red candle over here with this green candle. So this created a level of demand above the fair value. And so that means that everything below this is a discount. Everything in this level is where the demand is. And it did get mitigated once, but at the end of the day, you can see that this demand level that I boxed out, it's holding, and they're trying to come out again. So currently, in this very short time frame, this is the state of SpaceX, is that its demand is in this level in around 160.
Yeah.
They can change it at any moment. So you have to, that's why I like to trade. I trade live every single day. And I offer that with, any of the members to watch me trade every single morning. So, please, if you want to learn, and we have a free trial and huge discounts. So, just learn so that you can get experience. Like some of my members, they really said that the webinars are great, but when you're actually there trading live, you learn eons more.
Yes. So very quickly, I have to make a disclaimers again. There's whatever we shared is our own views, not a representative of others. And also, again, so no endorsement from our site. It's always anything that we share, even the stocks or logos that we put on the screen or anything. It's not an endorsement. We just discussing it for informational purposes. So you learn, and then you do your own research. This is just one maybe component that you need to look into, and then you look into, of course, if the stock is halal or not halal. Let me put the screen back again here, which is very important. And then we announced to let everyone know, we always announce, so you get 10% of the Musaffa subscription by being here. There's a code, of course, it's available on the web only, because doing it through the app is complicated, and then it's easy to do from the web, because when you click the buy the subscription plan, it brings you to the place where there's a place to put the discount, right? So it's Martalk 10, available only on the web. And I have very last question, which is very important, and I'm still keeping to show for people who just joined, and then if they're joining a little bit later, they can always watch again, because it will be live. But whoever just joined to get the information, we marked it as doubtful. And I have very last question, and then we drop off from here. Today is the most interesting and most longest, I guess, the market talk. So if you could give the one piece of advice to Muslim investors watching SpaceX story unfold, what would it be?
I think that we have to always take all the data we can. We have the fundamental analysis, the technical analysis, and we have to see, what's really happening. I know a lot of people are saying, like you can't just badmouth people, right? Like Elon Musk, right? He's a visionary. He obviously, like, look at with Tesla, right? And people say, oh, he's a trillionaire and he's taking all of our money and this, but it's something that Jeff Bezos said too about his company, Amazon, right? He's like, people say that, oh, he's like one of the richest people in the world, but he says that, he helped create millions and millions of other millionaires and even billionaires. And, I think Jordan Ramsey, he has this talk. It's like, we could be some of those people who came on for looking for financial advice, right? And there was a lady who said, I bought Tesla a long time ago and I just have like $2 million in it right now. Like, what should I do with it? Right? Like, Elon, she's a nobody to us, but Elon Musk helped create this millionaire, right? So that's what we do with investing, is that we're just trying to invest in a company that, they're helping us, right? Like I didn't help Elon Musk make his company, but now I'm getting finally after IPO, I'm getting the chance to benefit from his company that potentially could revolutionize the world. And if we see that it's, halal, and obviously when their income and profits change and et cetera, like it could become halal, even if it is doubtful. So you have to obviously, keep that in mind. But look at these key points that you're asking about. Only 4% of the float is being like offered, and supply and demand dictates everything. If you have a small supply, which is the case with SpaceX, and the demand is high, the price is going to go up, and the buyers are going to buy that, and that's just basically what happens. And so I looked at all of that data coming into this, and I was extremely bullish from the open. And you can see that we're literally up, $10. We went up $25 during the day on this multi-trillion-dollar company. So it was a successful trade and analysis from my perspective. And now we have to just kind of see, okay, how is the next day and the following day going to follow up with this kind of price action? And if you want, you can always follow along with Swing Trade Group to see how we analyze it on a day-by-day basis.
Yay. So thank you so much. I guess we touched upon so many things today. It was very, very productive. One of the most productive sessions, I would say, in my history of holding this market talks. We will continue doing, and we want to continuously inviting you, Brother Marjan. So we are anticipating this year more IPOs. It's Anthropic and OpenAI, inshallah. So yes, these are even another big ones. These are going to be also another trending ones, and our community wants to learn too. We want to be ahead of others as well, right? We want to learn the things firsthand. That's why Musaffa is here. That's why Musaffa is providing all this information, and we want to invite you. So be prepared. Whenever I reach out, please try to make a time for us, a little bit of this hour, and then we would be happy to host you again. And thank you everyone who's joining and listening us in. It was very, very interesting session, and thanks for people being very active in the chat, and then sending us lots of comments, likes, etc. So please stay with us. Please support Musaffa, and we will continue doing it. And thank you so much, Brother Marjan, for joining us. From here, we will end our session, and we wish everyone a wonderful day. Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you so much.
Assalamu alaikum.